the Healing Through Love podcast with Charlene Lynch and Rose Davidson.
Hello, I'm Charlene Lynch, and welcome to Healing Through Love podcast. We're here to shine the light on hope, resilience, and transformation in the journey to end domestic violence. Each week, we share powerful stories and practical tools from survivors, advocates, and experts. Together, we create a safe space for healing, inspiration, and change. Today, we've got a very special guest, Leigh-Anne Sharland. She is the founder of Suddenly Different and a powerful voice for compassion and understanding in the face of hidden struggles. We're going to dive into that and find out more about what is this hidden struggle. Having grown up in a domestically violent household, she and her brother carried the impact very different ways. Her brother's morbid obesity was not a choice, but an expression of deep pain and diminished self-worth. Tragically misunderstood by the medical system until his death at the age of 53. Oh, Leigh-Anne. She now shares the story to remind us all that lack of self-worth can be deadly and compassion is vital for every human being. Oh, Leigh-Anne, that's such a young age.
It certainly is. I think it's wrong. It's wrong for somebody to have died that young and to think that he'd already had 3 heart attacks before he had his final one. So his life changed when he was about 34, when he had his first heart attack.
So tell me the weight story. So was this from when he was very young? Like when did it start being a challenge, the weight?
So when he started off being a premature baby, right? So he was 6 weeks premature. He was 3 pounds when he was born, which was very, very small. And he was, unfortunately, in the 60s, the rule for premature babies was they need more food more quickly than other babies. So they were fed before they were ready to be fed. So he was force fed. He was trying to reject this foreign stuff in his face and he was force fed. Unfortunately, I lived in a violent household with him and he he was abused just as I was, verbally, emotionally, and we swallowed our words. Now, when he was young, he actually got into gym, right? So he built himself up. He was always little, and he built himself and got himself into gym. But unfortunately, as the emotional toll, the breakup of relationships he had in his teens, the shame that he felt in his life got so bad, he ended up replacing the gym with food. And so when he stopped doing all of that exercise, all of that muscle, and he was extremely muscular, all of that muscle then turned to fat, and then he grew. Then his self-worth got even worse, and he was criticized by those around him because he was becoming fat Duggo. And even though he could still hold his own on a footy field, he was not living his best life.
So, so, so you both had the same experience. Obviously, he was premature, you weren't, and fed too early. Yes, and so how have you walked away from this lifestyle, this environment of home? How have you walked away and transitioned into the person that you are, and he didn't? You both had the same experience. Why did it work for one and not the other?
Well, we just expressed our trauma differently, right? So I also had a physical trauma. I had sexual abuse as a child, as did he. And we I covered my trauma with attracting people who harassed me and treated me poorly in my early 20s, and ended up becoming a single mother. So I was not unscathed. But my brother took he took the trauma more directly, and I don't understand fully the difference between how boys and girls take the trauma differently into their life. But we were both very intelligent. We both had no problems getting a job out of school or anything like that. But we had different relationship problems. But his, I think, expressed the violence that my father would display. So deep down in my brother's default behavior, he had a fear that he was going to hit and he was going to be physically violent to another person, whereas I had the fear of that being done to me, not me doing it to somebody else.
Yeah, so you mentioned about compassion being one of the things that we need to bring to the table for whatever is happening in someone's life, whether they're happy, sad, abledly different. Leigh-Anne, you know that I'm definitely able different, and just how do we bring that level of compassion? So, how did compassion play a part for you in you moving forward and being the person that you are? And how is it that he didn't get that same level of compassion?
Well, compassion needs to be an inside job as well as an outside job because there's a permission barrier. And you can't, if you don't give yourself permission to receive compassion from yourself or from anybody else, then it can't get in. And with my brother, he he was desolate about how his life was. He had obvious expression of no self-worth. When he passed away, he he had just finished trying the Ozempic drug and losing weight, but the choice was lose weight and lose control of your bowels in public, or just keep going towards the finish line. And he gave up on trying to lose the weight because the cost to his very fragile ego was too great.
So, how can we show ourselves more self-compassion? How can we shift ourselves into a space where we're holding compassion for ourselves, which then air goes, you would be more open to compassion from other people. So, how can we do self-compassion for ourselves?
So, noticing what it is that is the automatic voice in our head, right? So, noticing that calling yourself a dropkick or worse. Noticing the thoughts that you're having about people around you, and just being self-aware. So if you can get yourself into a level of self-awareness and then a level of curiosity so that you can go, okay, so whose voice is that I'm hearing telling me that I'm not good enough? Who's, you know, is it my mum? Is it my dad? Or is it somebody that isn't real? Or or is it me? Because it's only when we're listening to our own voice and we get rid of all the different layers of all the different programming that has occurred by other people that we're able to choose whether we want to believe it or not.
So can we do, because this is a big thing.
It
Like
is.
it's not just a tiny, tiny thing. So self-compassion is a huge thing. And if you've been programmed in a specific way and you've been going down a particular path and you've got all of these inside voices saying one thing, and then even outside voices, people actually reaffirming these things that are happening inside of your head. What are the tiny little compassion? What are the tiny little self-compassion steps that I can do maybe on a daily basis that can help me move forward?
So it could be as simple at the end of each day, reflect on your day and notice one thing, just one thing that that you did well, that you did from a place of love and a place of even freedom, that little thing. And it could be that you looked at the blue sky for longer than a moment and that you saw the beauty that the earth has to give us, or that you remember having a conversation with someone and knowing that you had held that person in the palm of your hand with the love in your heart because they needed support, and knowing that you've gifted them with something that they needed.
You've talked about having a level of awareness
Yes,
for self and things around, and you've also talked about reflection. So,
yes.
how can we bring awareness and reflection into, say, a daily practice?
So, many different people suggest that you have gratitude journals or meditation. So having a ritual. I know that people who go to the gym, right? They on a ritual basis, they may go to the gym 3 or 4 times a week, and that is a ritual, and that is honoring themselves with that time for that purpose. And it is an indication of self-love, no matter how it feels at the time or afterwards. But so if you're able to have a ritual that suits you, that suits your style, your belief system, but having a ritual and and also they do say that the 5 people that you surround yourself with are the ones who can have the greatest influence on you. So even if you pay attention to one person, right? Just notice, is there somebody, is there a mentor, is there somebody that you can talk to that is going to light you up and help you to move from being in that darker place, that heavier place, because we are what we believe about ourselves. And if we can find some lightness and some joy, then we can notice that it's different. Because I know I've due to health reasons been off work for the last 3 years, and I notice the difference that I have by and I'm neurodiverse now too. So I know the difference that I have on the days where I surround myself with loving things, when I do something loving, when I record a podcast or I have a wonderful conversation with somebody that that I have a higher energy and I am more well. So,
Oh, there's so much to unpack there, Leigh-Anne. There's so much to unpack. So yeah, I like to say I'm neurospicy because I just think it's a bit spicy.
yeah, oh, well, of course.
And for the longest time, it was a place of shame, very low frequency shame and blame and guilt that I was not like other people. And what I am noticing now, nearly 60, that there's a lot more people coming to my side of the table. So I'm sort of happy about that. Now, you mentioned about self-belief. Now, that is a big, big subject just on its own. What do you think that we can do to shift these self-beliefs, these limiting beliefs that are holding us there? But how can we shift into different beliefs so that we can have a different outcome?
So, so you need to have that why. Why do you want to change, right? So what is it that you want to be in your future? And that can be immediate future or long-term future that is different to today. Because from there, you can unpack for yourself, who do you need to be to get there? What do you need to change about? Because we would already be there if we truly believed that we could be there with the way that we are living our lives today. So it's like, okay, so what do I want? And I'm not talking material things. I'm talking about the feelings that we want to have, because when you are electrically charged and magnetic, then the universe responds to you when that happens. And you seem to bring wonderful things into your reality.
Oh, so powerful. So we've talked about reflection, we've talked about awareness, we've talked about self-worth, self-esteem, self-compassion, compassion for others. I'd like to know, my heart to your heart, what would be the thing that you would share with Doug, your brother? What would you share with him if he was alive today?
I, if he was alive today, I would I would sit down with him and I would really have a deep conversation about what's going on with him. I realized that he was trying to reach out in the last 6 months that he was alive when I was sick, and um, and I really would like to talk to him to understand, and then to advocate for him in the medical profession, because unfortunately, morbid obesity is, and as I said, he was a very, very large man. It is seen as being a laziness choice, when actually by the time he was over about 3XL, his body was making the decision, and the fluid flow wasn't working properly and his heart wasn't working properly. So he could do nothing. And if he did anything and lost fluid, well, he nearly died one time from losing too much fluid. So, but but he was a little boy when he was losing the weight. He was a little boy who was wanting approval. So what he really needed, I think, in that last few years of his life was for his sister to be his advocate, be his sounding board, and remove the judgment that was perceived, real or unreal, by him, and to be really honest with myself about how I was feeling.
Such powerful words. In our short time together, I cannot believe that we've been speaking for 20 minutes. We could just talk all day. Yeah.
Yes.
What would be your final words of wisdom to our listening audience today?
So I would say, um, look at yourself, have a ritual, question your own judgment about others. Do not assume that you know their story. just as you may not even really know your own. And aim to have that generosity of spirit, to be compassionate of everybody around you.
Oh, that is beautiful. Thank you so much, Leigh-Anne, for being our special guest today on Healing Through Love. It's a goodbye from me and a goodbye from Leigh-Anne.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Healing Through Love. You can get further resources, see the show notes, or simply reach out to us via our website at htlaustralia.org. Thanks so much for joining us, and we look forward to your company next time on the Healing Through Love podcast.